I injured my finger on the moonboard for the second time a few months ago. And this time I decided to thoroughly document the rehabbing progress. Initially, I measured how much force I could still generate from my fingers on a 20mm edge out of curiosity. I was only able to generate 25.4 pounds of force, and it felt as if my injured middle finger had generated zero force and all the 25.4 pounds were generated by the other three fingers. 25.4 pounds are only around 18.8% of my body weight. But I used to be able to generate force that is 61.4% of my body weight. For the first 35 days, I decided to completely stop climbing and give my fingers a complete rest. 35 days flew by really fast. I could feel my fingers were getting a little better, and I decided to measure how much force I could still generate from my fingers again. I could generate 36.4 pounds of force, which is 27% of my body weight. I was hoping that I could speed up the healing progress and climb again. Therefore, I decided to reach out to Hubert Speda to see if he could help me speed up my healing progress. I've injured my finger for a little bit over a month. Is it now a good timing for me actually to start some rehabbing process for my fingers?
Unless you have a massive injury, like pure rest for finger injury is not the solution. An active recovery will always be a faster recovery. Exercising or rehabbing an injured finger will promote improved blood flow, maintain range of motion of the tissue, and will trigger adaptations you need on your path to healing and recovery.
What are some general guidelines for rehabbing the fingers?
Start with longer hold times, higher volume, and with lower resistance, and work up to shorter holds, lower volume with higher resistance. We want to start by simply stimulating the healing process. Lower resistance will allow you to do more, as in more volume and longer holds. This will help the compliance of your connective tissue and promote healing. You can then transition later in your rehab to higher resistance. Higher resistance will help retrain the tissue and make it stronger again, while this higher intensity will require more rest, meaning less volume, and will also be held for shorter durations.
What could be a good rehabbing plan for me?
I want everyone to understand right off the bat that I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach to rehab. When you first approached me, you gave me some strong numbers for your initial farmer cramp testing. You're out of the acute phase, moving beyond the subacute phase and into the remodeling phase. I want your rehab to focus on healing the tissue while retraining it to strengthen it back up to get you back to climbing. I want to include a farmer hold in both the open hand and the cramp positions. I also want to include strengthening of the finger and wrist flexors through eccentric finger and wrist curls. I want to balance this out with wrist extensor training via the reverse curls. These added exercises will not only promote healing via improved blood flow and tissue loading, but will also keep your forearms strong while you can't climb. Finally, on a consistent basis, I want you working on range of motion and general massage to that injured tissue. This will promote healing and remodeling on a cellular level and will maintain or even improve your tissue mobility, which is helpful in general, but particularly while healing.
The initial plan Hubert Speda came up with for me requires me to do the rehab exercises twice a day. One in the morning and one in the evening. However, since I don't climb for a living, I was unable to commit to this kind of schedule even though it's the most optimal for healing. After further discussion, Hubert Speda came up with a plan that would only require me to commit 2 to 3 days, but with a slightly more aggressive weight. Here is what the plan looks like. The first exercise is eccentric finger rolls for 2 sets of 12 reps with 20 pounds barbell, emphasizing on a slow and controlled eccentric motion. This may look easy, but doing it for 12 reps really gets the forearms and biceps activated. The second exercise is the reverse curl for 2 sets of 12 reps with 20 pounds barbell. Again, emphasizing on a slow and controlled eccentric motion. This exercise reminds me of the wrist rolling because of how much it activates the wrists and forearms. The third exercise is open hand farmer crimps with 6 reps of 20-second holds and a 40-second rest in between. The weight recommended by Hooper's Beta is 30 pounds, which is nearly 80% of the force I measured. Initially, I had to rest around 1 to 2 minutes in between sets, and then eventually work my way to the prescribed 40-second rest. The last exercise is the half crimp farmer crimps, with 6 reps of 20-second holds and a 40-second rest in between. The weight recommended by Hooper's Beta is 20 pounds, which is a lot less aggressive compared to the open hand version. I immediately knew why after trying them out. It is because the main injured part of my finger was fully activated in this position. I rehabbed, and rehabbed. Eventually, I was able to progress to doing open hand farmer crimps with 32.5 pounds and half crimp farmer crimps with 22.5 pounds. On day 40, I felt good enough and wanted to return to the climbing gym. I decided to measure how much force I could generate from my fingers again. I could now generate 48.2 pounds of force, which is 35.7% of my body weight. I returned to the gym and started climbing. Initially, it was a bit overwhelming for the fingers to both climb and do the farmer's crimp rehab. It took me a while to feel comfortable doing open hand farmer crimps with 32.5 pounds and half crimp farmer crimps with 22.5 pounds post climbing. I also identified a V4 in my gym that I wanted to project. It was definitely a funny feeling to project a route that I knew I would flash pre-injury. In any case, I picked this route because I knew I had to crimp with my injured finger in the last few moves in order to complete it. I projected, and projected. I also continued to rehab, and rehab. Based on what I reported to Hooper's Beta, he recommended that I start moving out of the long hold time phase and start increasing weight with shorter hold time. To my great surprise, on day 65, this happened. It felt great to complete this V4 because this told me I was almost back to my usual pre-injury self. After resting for a few days, I decided to measure how much force I could generate from my fingers again. I could now generate 56.4 pounds of force, which is 41.7% of my body weight. I was a bit surprised at how low the number is because I was expecting the number to be at least 50% of my body weight. I even casually tested my other healthy hand just to make sure that the crane scale wasn't broken. And of course the crane scale wasn't broken. For the beginners out there, I guess this further proves that you don't need a crazy amount of finger strength in order to reach V4. I plan to continue the rehab and maybe jump back on the moonboard at some point to see if I can climb this gotta be the easiest or project some gym V5s. But in any case, I decided not to wait till I am fully recovered to finish and upload this video. I was uploading multiple calisthenics videos in a row recently. However, someone actually commented in my last calisthenics video, "Where is the climber part of Geek Climber?" Therefore, I have no choice but to upload this video right now to show the doubters that I am still a climber. Thanks for watching. Just in case you are wondering what portable hangboard I use for the farmer's crimp rehab, it's called the Port-A board from Fictitious Climbing. It can be used not only as a portable hangboard as shown in the video, but also as a pinch block. And it can also be mounted on the wall and used as a traditional hangboard. It's an incredibly innovative product, and I highly recommend you click the link in the video description below to get one. Full disclosure, I am not sponsored, but I will earn a commission on each purchase. This is a great way to support my channel as well as innovative climbing startups. Again, make sure to click the link in the video description below. See you in the next video. Thank you so much, Jason, for joining the call and giving me some help. And guys, if you haven't checked out Jason's channel, Hooper's Beta, yet, definitely check it out.